let's start by getting to know you a little bit more. So tell us a bit about your what you've been up to lately, and a little bit about your origins. Your origin story and things like that.
Yeah, so I will start maybe with what I've been up to recently. As you might know already, I mean, from the introduction and everything, I'm running a Blender-based website, which is called Chocofur.com. Actually, lately, to be honest, we do a lot of unfriendly stuff, which means we are rebuilding our website and bringing it up to a better level. But yeah, the way the Chocofur started is actually pretty interesting, because a couple of years ago, when Blender was kind of becoming this popular 3D application, there were already many online stores with 3D models, but none of them was dedicated to Blender. And I have an architectural background because I studied architecture, so I was interested in design and furniture design, interior design in general. So there were a couple of furniture pieces which I really liked. They weren't that popular, and we were 3D modeling them at that time for our own purposes in our own studio, which I will talk about later. And one day we thought, well, maybe we will just put them online for people so they can see them. And we were thinking about the website design, how to do it. It wasn't a big thing back then, and it all kind of it died during the process because it was a bit too time consuming. But in the end, we were left with all those 3D models and the name Chocofur. So I thought, yeah, let's just give it a try. Let's maybe finish it a little bit differently to what we planned. And that's how the store started. And it wasn't meant to be any big deal at that time. I just wanted to see if there's even any interest in 3D models for Blender. But yeah, it turned out to be there turned out to be many people who really actually liked the idea, wanted to support it. So step by step, we started adding additional assets, growing the store, and I would say now it's a really big part of my business. And from the next year, I think I would like, if it's possible, if it's going to be possible, if I'm going to manage my stuff, I would like to focus on it like 100% and just work on this one piece of my business.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious about also is where. So right now, I know like your assets are centered around like the ArcViz
Yes.
business. Yeah, there are a lot of furniture assets, and as somebody who did some architectural visualization in the with your experience in architectural visualization, like how would you is it because I can imagine that when you're trying to beat a deadline, you would need like anything that can that you won't have to model from scratch is a lifesaver. Yeah. So what was that like for you? Like how when you were doing projects, like how often would you rely on assets, if there were any available even, or how big of a part of the workflow is it? Yeah.
I think I know what you mean. Well, my answer would be it really depends on the project, because there are actually I think there are most of the projects you do in terms of interior design or architecture. Okay, maybe not most, but at least in my experience, is that the customers very often want you to kind of maybe not fully design the interior, but they rely on your taste and your visual sensitivity. So they will tell you, okay, let's put a table and chairs in here, but the kind of table and kind of chairs is up to you to decide. And at least again, that's my experience. Very often, because of the choices I made or my team made in the visualizations later during the project development, a customer actually picked the furniture pieces we put in the visualization. So they were an actual furniture purchased by the company or by the client and placed in the real space, based only on the decision was based only on the visualization. So that was also influencing the library models, the models we wanted to keep in our library, because people often ask me, well, how much time is needed to create a one model, one chair, let's say, that I have in the store? And I would say the research really can be up to 40 to 50% of the time, sometimes looking for correct references, looking for correct furnishings. It's really like very time consuming, because we cannot afford just making 50 chairs and letting people like choose whatever they want. In the end, having those 25 of those chairs like being completely useless. So we wanted to narrow down we wanted to narrow down the looks of the model and just pick the ones that really we find, visually pleasing and useful for our customers later. So yeah, but I drifted a bit away from the question. Yeah. Depending on the project, sometimes some of the customers, they just really want, they already have all the furnishings picked up and they want the exact choices to be placed in the visualization. So then we have to model it. So obviously those kind of projects are a bit more expensive on the client end. But when it's possible, we really want to use our assets. And I would say in like 60% of projects, we can easily rely on our assets like completely. So I guess that's a good output. And the library is constantly growing. So from the projects where we have to custom model some of the furnishings, we later are allowed to put them online in the store as well. So it's a win-win situation.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
By that, do you mean like you also actually get to publish assets that were modeled after something from an existing catalog, an existing furniture catalog or something?
To be honest, we didn't do like full catalog modeling for any of the furnishing companies yet. But some of the companies, because very often when you work with smaller manufacturers, the company that does, let's say, tables, they would have probably 3 or 4 or 5 designs. And then the entire offer of the company varies just in the dimensions, let's say the leg looks or the tabletops. And in the end, what's useful for 3D artists are those 5 key table layouts this company just produces in like 50 different variations, right? So for this company, for that kind of company, we, let's say, create 50 3D models for their own internal use. But what we place in the store is just the 5 key distinguishable models. So then, people usually know how to change the diameters and the sizes. So we don't have to upload like 50 different models, which are different just by the heights or width or something like this. So yeah, some of the companies we have the agreements with that allow us to use some of the assets also in the store.
That's pretty neat. That's a good
that's a good place
win, like you say. Yeah
exactly.
Yeah. What gave you the final, what gave you the motivation you needed to develop Chocofur as an asset store? Yeah.
So making a long story short, as I said, I studied architecture and I graduated, but I don't really wanted to stay in that industry, so to speak. But at the same time, I really didn't want it to drift away too far and start doing something completely different to architecture. So I thought the 3D kind of being a 3D artist is actually both words. So I can do stuff that I actually liked and doing stuff on the computer, and at the same time still be connected with the architectural world. So during my studies, I started working at Evermotion as a 3D modeler and like 3D generalist for a year.
What was that like?
And I think that I mean, can you narrow? I mean, the company is great. It's really nice working there. Great people, which I still have like connection with after those many years. And yeah, I really like working there. I really learned a lot at that time because I was basically getting there as a 3D. I mean, I was just a self-taught guy, which really still had to learn a lot from of the industry standards. So yeah, that really helped me a lot. And I think having this 3D modeling background and 3D being this 3D generalist guy really also influenced the Blender store, the Chocofur store idea as well.
Yeah. Were you able to work using Blender in Evermotion?
Yes.
Wow.
So I wasn't the only guy there using Blender. So at that time there were two of us, me and Kamil, and actually that's really interesting because Kamil also, he was one of the guys who wrote one of the best Polish books about Blender, and I was learning myself. I mean, I was learning Blender from that book, and then we worked together using Blender in Evermotion. So it was a funny experience. And I know, as far as I know, the company is very open to Blender because as a 3D modeling tool, it's no different to any other application than. It's in the end, the way I was working on my models, I was making all the 3D modeling and unwrapping in Blender, and then just converting the models in 3ds Max and applying shaders and making renders. But I think there were some projects where I did the entire modeling and rendering in Blender. I don't remember that.
What version of Blender was this, if it's all right to
I
ask?
think that was late 2.49, and I think that was the last version. It was somewhere when the new 2.5 was coming out, then that I was leaving the company, I think. Yeah, so after I left Evermotion, I was kind of used to, let's call it a freelance lifestyle, because I don't know how it is in other countries, but studying architecture in Poland is really, really similar to working as a freelancer. So a lot of the subjects you have to study, in the end, you have a project that has to be finished, that has to be visualized, like drawn and presented. So all this like drawing and 3D modeling stuff has to be done by someone, and it's usually by you because it's really hard to outsource it as a student.
Yeah,
and you just have a deadline where you have to present your stuff, so no one cares if you do it in 1 week or if you do it for 2 months. Yeah, so I was after I stopped working at Evermotion, I became kind of a freelancer because that's the point in my life I took a series of wrong decisions, unfortunately. I mean, I decided to run my own company instead of like slowly maybe graduating and becoming first a freelancer, then growing my stuff. But anyways, so I started working with a couple of my friends from the architectural studies. We were doing both like 3D, 2D, and a little bit of interior design. And it actually went pretty well, surprisingly. We really got like quite a lot of recognition. At the time I was writing like quite a lot of articles to 3D Artist magazine, and I really got some long-lasting clients thanks to that. And but also because due to some personal stuff, because my current wife was studying in Germany and I was still living in Poland, so it was always like this very long distance in our relationship. So in the beginning of 2013, I just decided to go to Germany for a while, especially because I also got a contract at Pixomondo back then. This is I don't know if you're familiar, it's a VFX company. They did a lot of stuff for Game of Thrones and many feature films. So I was working there for a couple of months, but honestly, I really didn't like it that much. As much as I thought it's going to be nice, it turned out that I didn't like it. And the VFX world, which I was always kind of dreaming about, really turned out not to be my story. And Yeah, and so it was 2013. I was in Germany, and then I got a job opportunity in Munich, thanks to a friend of mine, Łukasz, who's now actually running the, let's say, a side branch or the branch of my old company in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So we were working there together for a short time, and yeah, and that's how I stayed there. I really got like many interesting clients from Munich area, and I'm here at the moment. So the like and somewhere in all this, traveling and working, the Chocofur idea was born, and it was kind of growing and developing. So I was working with one of the agencies here in Munich, like full-time Blender all of the time, of course.
Yeah.
So somewhere around 2015, I just decided, I will just try to focus on the Chocofur more. So I kind of loosen up my because I wasn't like fully employed by this agency. I was freelancing for them intensively because they had many projects that really needed high quality 3D stuff. But yeah, I at that time I was really feeling like the Chocofur could really grow and be a not only nice business, because one of your question was like what was like motivating me to create it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was also like on the side of 3D models, I was also creating tutorials for Blender. And in a difference to what was popular at that time, because everyone was kind of trying to do YouTube videos, which were like, I didn't like the quality, because it was usually like, okay, in this video I'll show you how to create materials, and then for 10 minutes someone was explaining the interface, moving a cube, and then 30 seconds he showed you how to add a shader. And so that was my experience with video tutorials. I really wanted to kind of drift away from this. So I was
Yeah.
making written tutorials with lots of slideshows and graphics, and that turned out to be a really helpful to many people. So I was getting so much positive feedback from the community that was really motivating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really motivating when someone's writing you that like I was browsing your website, I went through all the tutorials, and now I can actually, I'm an architect, I never did the 3D, but now I can really do it. And I mean, this really empowered me to improve in my job and serve the clients better and so on. So that's really that's a feeling you never usually get from the projects you just do for money, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was the strongest motivation for me, to keep working on Chocofur.
I would say maybe like ArcViz is so much more viable now with Blender thanks to Chocofur, for example.
Yeah,
You now have a
I mean, I don't want to but I think the add-on is a really great thing, because it's not over complicated. It just does what it's supposed to be doing. So you just add models, and that's it. You don't have any unnecessary options like, I don't know, adding a favorites and stuff like this, because I think with the structure we have in the add-on right now, it really allows you to pretty like productively manage a library of, I think, from 1,000 to 5,000 models easily. And because usually when you have like I'm talking about even big companies, when you have a huge libraries of 3D assets, in the end, it's always, you can probably narrow 90% of the assets to like 500, because even though you have, let's say, 300 trees available to use in visualizations, in the end you probably use just those favorite 5 or 10, and you exactly know how they look, what are their names, and you can find them in the library very easily.
yeah.
So yeah, I think in that terms, if you like, we still grow, we are still growing our Chocofur library, and now we are way past 1,000 models. I know it's not that much if you compare it to other websites, but I think what's a strong point of our like assets library is that we really kind of handpick the models we add to it. So we have I have a person who's interior designer, and when we do the reference research, I'm really right now I'm relying on that person choice because it's Paulina, and I really like the style of her visualization, so I know she has a really good eye in terms of like aesthetics. So the furniture pieces she picks up, I think they are very useful, and it's better to have like 5 really nice tables instead of like 50, right?
Yeah, if you were to focus on 5 tables, then these 5 tables would, for example, they would probably need to be designed in such a way that they would look good in almost any room. Is that, or is that not really a
Yeah,
thing?
that's a little bit of true, because like you have those famous Vitra chairs, like Eames chairs, and they really look good in many situations, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are some. I mean, the furniture range you can have is really so huge. It's really hard to pick even, let's say, 500, or I mean 100 tables that would sort out, let's say, even 80% of visualization scenarios, right? But yeah, I think what you said, we really kind of try to focus on the furnishing pieces that will suit to, let's say, most of the interiors people are working on. And once we maybe go past through a certain number of models, maybe then we'll try to narrow down those niches, like very rustic furnishings, or the highly decorated ones, and so on. But I think honestly these aren't used that often as the more, how to say it, like the more modern, or like currently this Scandinavian kind of interior style is still very popular. So those kind of furnishings, I think, have much more users looking for them. Like 50% of overall time spent on a model is
Yeah,
just researching, and because once you find a nice furnishing, you still have to look for the references, so you can actually 3D model it and know how it looks, what are the proportions, and everything. And it's really challenging with some of the furnishing to have enough photographs or anything so you can actually use them to model the stuff. And it's also quite hard because I also didn't mention it, that at the moment I'm basically running the entire business online. So I used to have an office, but I dropped it after going to Germany. I mean, I didn't drop it completely. I just make it much smaller, and I have one person sitting there doing all the accounting stuff and managemental stuff. But everything else is run online. So we have our team Slack chat. We have a Trello board where we outline the projects we work on and all the Chocofur stuff, and we just. I mean, working online has many benefits and some minuses, but as for now, we are able to do it online all the time.
What are some of the disadvantages for you working in a remote-based?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I'm back on track as well. Yeah, because with the reference research, it's also very important, at least when you work online, to do enough research so the person that 3D models a chair, let's say, you don't have to go through like 3 rounds of changes. Because if you have hundreds of models in production and you do like 3 rounds of changes to each model, it takes so much time. And it's not even the 3D modeling that's put into those changes, but like the information exchanging, like getting an email or dropping a comment. I've seen someone
I think we
wanting
should.
to know more about Blender and VR.
Yeah. So that's
actually,
kind of pathy. Yeah.
If I can stick to that, honestly, I think I might have quite an unorthodox answer to that, but I think the VR, at least at the current state, is quite a little bit overhyped, in my opinion. But maybe that's just my experience. I was trying to talk to a couple of companies about the VR and different VR projects and VR presentations, and we even did one of those for pretty, I mean, I can't say the name, but the biggest automotive company, and it didn't actually make any sense in the end. I mean, because the purpose of visualizations and 3D stuff in general is usually marketing and influencing, let's say, the investor into making a certain steps, right? So we were hoping the VR presentation of one of the projects gonna make a huge impact on the investor's decision. And in the end, the decision was positive, but it wasn't. Sorry, I have to like relaunch the lights, but it wasn't influenced by the VR presentation at any point. So we could easily avoid it, and the output would be still the same, basically. And that's a little bit of the experience I have from other collaborations, like company-based collaborations on VR as well. So, for example, we were making one VR presentation for a like window company. That was one of the companies from Australia, and they couldn't bring all those big windows to the trade fairs they were doing in Europe, because these are like huge surfaces, like minimum 3 to 2 meters. So it's quite hard for them to bring them to Europe. And we did a VR application where you could see their windshields. I mean, their windows, like in a virtual space, in a virtual building. You could walk around and open them and hear the interior, exterior audio differences and everything. But it was more of a like, oh, it's a nice. The people were more focused on the application itself than on the product. So
yeah.
So again, it didn't actually like
serve its
make.
purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So I still think it's especially with the real estate. I had this experience that many real estate companies, like the VR could be a nice replacement for the showrooms the companies do. So they, can you hear me?
Yeah. I was ejected for a while, but I'm back now. Yeah.
So I had this kind of hope that the VR interior is going to be a nice replacement for the showrooms that real estate developers build physically to advertise or to present some of the apartments they are selling. But again, I mean, none of like maybe that's also because the production cost for a VR application or VR, like even the easiest VR, let's say interior presentation for Oculus Rift and everything, providing the hardware and making sure it actually works when the customer comes and wants to use it, it's quite expensive in the end. So I think companies still prefer to just build it physically, and they at least know it always works, right? So someone comes, just walks around, touches, and feels how the space actually works. And it's different to VR. And another VR experience we had was when you do like static visualizations or even animation, you can kind of cheat in many ways. So you can place the camera the way that really sells the space. So you have a very small room, but you can really make a image composition the way that it really looks nice and kind of spacey. And from my experience in VR, you always see all the nuances. So let's say if you only have 35 square meter apartment, it will be very like plainly visible in VR. Once you walk around it, once you can look around it, you see the ceilings aren't actually that high as you thought. And in static pictures, you can always place the camera. It's just a static picture. You can compose it very nicely and present it the way you really want the client to see. And VR really strips everything out of it. So we even had one customer that once he saw the VR experience, he actually decided not to follow that way. We got paid and everything, but yeah, he was kind of scared that the customers might not like the actual, let's say, smaller apartments we were advertising.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's interesting, because then it's like the composing a shot, like you could anything from, I guess, camera focal length or anything like that can alter like the perception of like the size of the space. But then since if VR like shows you exactly what it looks like,
yeah, with all the drawbacks as well. I mean, it's really interesting how much VR, I think the problem is that it's too realistic. Actually, it's really too realistic in sense of, especially when you do the interior presentations, it really shows you the exact height of the building, exact width, length, and if the space is small, you can really feel it in VR, in my opinion, and you can't cheat that much as in static shots. I mean, it's not cheating, it's just like advertising it in a better light, more attractive light.
Yeah, like putting the better foot forward.
So it's really hard to do it in VR, I think.
Yeah. That's true. And I guess you could. I mean, do you usually also do like camera fly-throughs and things like that, like animated, like a render sequence?
Łukasz, a friend of mine who runs the Brazilian side of the company, he does more of the fly-throughs. So I mean, because I personally did only those kind of. I mean, one of the so maybe biting it from the other side. I didn't do a the proper fly-through animation for any of the clients, but for this car company, they were designing a really huge showroom, and instead of doing the fly-through cameras, we actually created the VR application for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if we just did fly-through animations, that would be better tool of like communication, but we just gave them the goggles and allowed to walk around the space.
Yeah.
So I mean, with fly-through animations, you can like very precisely narrow down what do you want to show in the entire animation. So it's different to just giving people the complete freedom of walking around.
That's an interesting point, actually.
But honestly, I would also like to hear other people's experience, right, about the VR. I'm pretty sure there are people who would say, "Well, it's the future," right? But from my experience, and it's not just a 1 year experience, I think we started digging into the VR in 2014, like more intensively. And after those, let's say 3 or 4 years, that's my conclusion. I think it's still a bit too early. It's one of my impressions is that the thing we as, let's say, 3D guys or 3D creative people consider as some kind of standard becomes mainstream after 5 to 10 years. So, for example, when you look at Dropbox right now, it's this application that almost everyone uses as Excel, but it's basically an FTP server with better interface. That's what Dropbox is, and this technology has been available like for 20 years before it actually became understandable to like regular people.
Yeah.
So I think with VR, we are still in that place. I think 5 or 10 years before it really becomes like the thing. There are still companies here in Germany that don't fully understand like visualizations, like 3D visualizations. When I explain to the people what I do, they really have problems understanding it. So so I think we are still pretty far ahead the actual let's call it the market.
VR versus 360, like panoramas. Which has more control.
Yeah, exactly. The 360 panoramas are a great example because they've been available since I think 2008 or 10. I mean, like the tools to put them online and like to render them, I think they were available for so many years already. And still, many companies, when they hear about it, they are very like kind of maybe not shocked, but like, oh wow, we can really do this. We can allow people to look around it on our website. Wow, that's interesting. Let's do it, right? So I
Yeah.
think the 360 panoramas are actually very good, compromise between visualization and VR.
Yeah.
Especially the ones where you can actually navigate at some point, because then you have a control of what the customer actually sees, where he can go, and so you can place the cameras in interesting locations. And even like for every 360 panorama in an interior where you can switch between them, you can arrange the set differently, right? You can put the stuff more in more pleasing way, so you always get the nice experience looking 360. And in like static VR walkthrough, where you look around, everything stays in the same place, right? So you can't even, so you don't have this freedom of arranging the space for the best view.
Another question is, so Ganapathy asks, what's your view on the new Eevee engine, and how does that play a part in like the future of visualization work?
Yeah, I think Eevee is great. I don't know if you've seen the Emmy Awards,
Yeah.
where the entire background was animated in Eevee, which is
Yeah.
like an alpha version of a software.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that
really
was insane.
mind-blowing, because even I thought, yeah, okay, Eevee is nice, but it's still a viewport. You like in the production language, you will have some kind of anti-aliasing, problems, and everything is just blah blah blah. But it turns out, like, if you're a skilled 3D artist, you can use it for Grammy or for Emmy awards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that just speaks for itself. If you can do it in alpha version, then yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very big game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not a very big game changer, but definitely something like gaining more attention to Blender.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's gonna have an impact on a lot of industries
Yes,
also,
like definitely on mine business, because I mean, we have a problem of converting those over 1,000 models to Eevee right now, because we started releasing the first models back in 2013, when the cycles back then was completely different in some areas to what we have right now.
Yeah.
So I would say 95% of the models don't even have principled BSDF shader, which is kind of like, well, we were waiting quite long for it to come, to be honest. So we had to find a solution. But yeah, so we have to do this upgrade next year once Blender 2.8 is out.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be great, right? Because you can just drag and drop the models to your 3D space in Blender and just almost instantly see how they look. You can adjust shaders in literally in real time.
Yeah.
Because like Eevee is like switchable to cycles and work seamlessly, the shaders. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. Besides, if you name your PBR, if you name your maps, like your texture maps, right? You can use a node wrangler to import like the whole set into a principled shader. Like
Yeah,
just
exactly.
so that was great. That was like something I realized only recently, and that was pretty cool. Yaroslav asks, as you grow your business, do you find yourself more consumed by the business or business management tasks than creative tasks? Kind of like Don not coding Blender anymore, but running the Blender project. Do you find balance, or perhaps is it not an issue for you at all?
Yeah, so like splitting the question into, so the first part, as you grow and so on, yeah, it's definitely for me right now, it's definitely more business management than creating the actual projects. I mean, there are still some customers and some projects maybe not. I'm just thinking if there are any projects I do entirely myself right now, maybe just some single ones during the year. And these are usually the quick ones that really have to be done like in a short time span. But most of the projects right now are, I just try to manage them online and coordinate. And so I think that becomes a thing once you grow, because it's simply because of the time limitation. You can't do everything yourself. But I would say it's what's really hard is is finding a balance between, yeah, I'm looking for a right word. I think what's really hard is, I don't want to say building a team is that hard, but building a structure within the team can work without your presence all the time. That's a really challenging thing, at least for me. So let's say when we prepare 3D models for Chocofur, it's really, at least for me, as I say, it's really hard to lay all your knowledge to the people so they can just like kind of consume it and then produce the output you're expecting. Communicating this knowledge and making it into the videos, into, let's say, some notes or tutorials or some guidelines, it's really hard, because I think it's because you what you think is understandable to people always works different depending on the person who's reading it, because everyone has a different knowledge, everyone has different Blender experience. So one person will catch like this video entirely, and the other one won't do it completely, right? So I think what's really hard is later like managing the people who you thought you who you thought your knowledge, and like polish all those areas where the team doesn't work the way you want. I think that's really the most time-consuming thing, because when you have a project and it's like, let's say, it's a quick 8-hour project, you send it to someone and it already took you like 2 hours explaining what has to be done, and then the person does it in 10 hours, and then you need to explain the first like set of feedback to that person, which already takes another 2 hours, and then it's another set of feedback and another, and it turns out you spend in general more time explaining stuff on a project than doing it yourself, and you have to pay someone. So this can be quite frustrating. But as one person explained it, it's a little bit like planting a tree. So first, it's a really hardship. So you have to put it into the ground, water it, and etc. And it takes some time before it bears fruit. So I think building a team and managing it and getting everything together is a little bit like that. So it's also a bit like sad in the end that you would actually like to do some personal 3D projects, and you always think, I will do it once I get a little bit more time, and then 4 years pass and you still don't have that time to do it. So that might be quite frustrating as well.
I can relate to that aspect, at least.
I
think all of us can. Okay, but so two really great questions from Marcin and Ganapathy, but we'll go with Ganapathy first because it continues nicely from where we're leaving off. So he says,
if I can just quickly interrupt, because there was one question. If I find Blender limiting in any area, I think there was a question like that somewhere.
Well, I must have missed it, but that's a good thing to discuss. Is there? So where, in what aspects?
I just wanted to say no.
I
mean,
that's right.
In the area, and I think that's a nice topic, because people always say, but 3ds Max or Cinema are used by all those big companies, so we should also do it. I think that's a wrong approach to the subject. Simply, I would say 3ds Max is a software which allows you to do everything from like simple house visualization to like literal Hollywood movie production, which the software was actually created for. It was over time. It started being used as a visualization software for architects. Actually, that's the way the 3ds Max was developing as a tool. So and that's why it costs a lot, because it's used by all those huge companies which don't even feel the license costs in the multi-million budget. But is it a right tool for a small 2 or 3 people company in a small town which does the architecture as a main thing and visualizations just as a side thing? I don't think that's the best tool for this kind of company, right? And I would say Blender is a great tool for all those smaller and even medium-sized, small and medium-sized companies. Maybe it's not the best tool for, let's say, doing the Avengers, but I would say it's really great tool if you're a designer, freelancer, small architectural office or medium-sized architectural office, and you do everything internally, then it's a really great tool. And I never found it limiting in my job. The only limit it has, it cannot open Max files and C4D files. So you just need a way to export everything you want. And I also mentioned it in Zach's interview. Maybe it's just me, but at least I had this luck where the clients weren't complaining that the projects are done in Blender. Because some companies, they want to have the output files for themselves after the project is done. So if there is any change or to like visualization, they don't have to call you and wait 2 weeks until you like move the tree a little bit to the right. So they want to do it themselves. And then some of the companies say, well, we are using Cinema. Can you send us the Cinema files? And I had this luck. I mean, all the companies I work with, I just say, no, I work in Blender. So I can send you the files, but you'll have to deal with them yourselves. And as for now, that wasn't a problem to any of my clients. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's. Well, notwithstanding certain situations, like you could easily just export it as an FBX or any sort of universal format.
With Collada, I think it's. I'm just trying to recall the project I've seen, but someone I think someone animated something in Maya, and he was able to literally export almost all the settings to Blender using the DEA Collada format, which really allows it to export much more than just a mesh and UVs.
So but even controls, like armatures.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it was that advanced. I was really amazed.
Yeah. So that's cool.
I also think in the end, if you're doing 3D professionally, you always need to know the other tools. Like it's not 2006 anymore where you could just know 3ds Max and you were the guy. Today, I think it's normal to know more applications.
Yeah, for sure. Especially since some shine where others don't as much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But I still think I agree. Like I have no beef with Blender at all. I think it's got everything you need. Yeah. But okay. Anyway, Marcin asks, which feature in Blender development was for you a game changer in terms of professional usage? Overall in your whole history. So like excluding cycles, what do you feel might be lacking in Blender compared to other 3D software that you used?
Yeah, I would say the biggest feature was obviously cycles. I would say back in the days, the thing was I was using Blender because it was free. So many people were saying, yeah, if you had money, then you would definitely use something professional. Well, the story right now is, no, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Maybe that's because I'm so used to it, so I don't need any other software. But yeah, if I should be a little bit more critical, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what else from other software could be used in Blender. I think it's been a while where the other applications were stealing some features from Blender, like Grease Pencil, and which I don't use that much.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think, okay, don't quote me on that, but I think the Grease Pencil was kind of, I think it was even stripped, like, I mean, copy pasted to some other application. Like there were some parts of the code literally like one-on-one copy.
Wow.
But I like, don't quote me on that. I think it was the story. Maybe you can Google it somewhere. But anyway, what I think could be, but it's going to be cycles related. I think cycles could just learn a little bit more from other rendering engines, like having some let's say like with Corona renderer, I think it really has a great post-production tools, like
Yeah.
even the white balance or yeah, the curves in Blender, which are controlling the color management. I think they work really strange in comparison to curves in Photoshop for some reason. So I never use them. I just always export to Photoshop and do all the post-processing there. Maybe if that was improved, that would be awesome. And yeah, I would think my comments would only go towards cycles. So if it could handle a few lightning situations a bit better, like multiple lights, or yeah, I think the multiple lights scenarios are still like the bottleneck of of cycles. But you can always use a render farm, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
there's
really the
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I have problems with like noise and I just don't want to freeze my computer for 6 hours, I just upload it to the render farm. It costs like $5 to $10 and it's done in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the I mean, it's inevitable, I guess. Like you would eventually have to rely on like send it out to a to a farm to meet the deadline. I mean, I think that I think that if I've also done some, like I've had some freelance projects which were nightmares simply because I had no access to a farm at that time.
Yeah, what I also wanted to mention, I think the network rendering in Blender could be done better.
That's true.
Yeah, what would be awesome would be some like render management for Blender, similar to what you have in 3ds Max. I think it's Backburner, right? But it would be nice if it maybe had some interface in Blender.
Yeah,
so that
would be great.
And if you could use it on a network or render farm, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could, but I mean, like you could render it on our farm, for example, or many other farms, yeah. But an actual community based like a backburner counterpart, yeah, that would be really interesting.
If I again can jump in, I've seen a question. Inspiration is very important.
Yes,
From where did you get inspired? Have ever stuck with unsatisfied customer? So I will start from the end. Have I ever stuck with unsatisfied customer? Actually, I would lie if I say no, but the percentage of customers that weren't happy with my work is very, very low. Actually, I only recall the one from this year, from January, where we were 3D modeling a car element for one customer, and he really was, in my opinion, he was very complaintful. And so the story was, I really wanted to test one of the freelancers, how he's doing with 3D modeling. So I assigned him to this task, and the client was really sending many rounds of changes. So at one point, I was kind of really annoyed by the freelancer, because I thought, yeah, why can't you make it right after the 5th time he sent you the feedback? So I literally took the model and checked everything myself, then compared it to the feedback, to the like literal drawings the customer made, and we were off like pixels sometimes. So I thought, yeah, the guy is kind of really picky. It's not the freelancer's fault. So in the end, we send him like another like version of the model, and he started becoming kind of like he wrote us like, oh yeah, maybe you're not good for the task or whatever. And I just said, yeah, we are not, probably. If we can't do it right after the 6th round of changes, then it looks like we are not. If I mean, you can keep the model. Let's just clear the payment for what we did, and well, I'm sorry, but it looks like we can't. Simple as that. There will never be a situation that everyone likes you and you like everyone. So sometimes it doesn't work, and I don't think it should be taken personal. It's just the business. And as for the inspiration, I don't know, to be honest. I think right now I really look for an inspiration to not maybe do the 3D work itself, but to keep business like moving forward.
Yeah.
So I really like listening to like various podcasts, not strictly the business related ones, but just to listen to people who I find like-minded and just see how their lives look like and what are their opinions on different stuff, and sometimes get inspired by that.
What are some of the podcasts you'd recommend actually?
But these are not 3D related. I like
Yeah, sure, but
H3 podcast.
well, I haven't
Yeah,
heard of that. But
yeah, it's like it's more of a comedy or Bill Burr
okay,
podcast he's
yeah,
doing on Monday and Thursday. But speaking of creative stuff, I think what you might really find interesting is the Future Futur. I never know how to pronounce it. Channel on YouTube. It's run by Chris Doe, and he's he's actually a VFX artist, but right now he's also he's mostly a company owner and creative director. Right now he has a small VFX house in LA. I think 20 people working there, and I think his job quality is very solid. Maybe I will paste the link somewhere so you can forward it.
yeah. That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
You could paste it on the team chat, and we can.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I will do.
Okay. Okay. So while you're doing that, I think it's because some of the people watching had to leave, but see if I can try to get into contact with them later on. But I think it's time for us to go over some announcements. Yeah. So
Yes.
so as thanks again for everyone attending the stream and for your patience for the unforeseen technical issues. We're each of us, Chocofur and Garage Farm, are each going to give you some coupon codes. In our case, for some rendered credits. And would you like to talk a little bit about your coupon?
Yes, the coupon from Chocofur will allow you to get a 30% discount on any purchase you do in the store. So I think it's a good deal, especially, and I don't want to force it, but we have a product called Lifetime Bundle, which means you basically get everything we have available for 789 euros or something. And that also includes all the upcoming assets we are releasing. So once you get that bundle, you have access to over 1,000 models and shaders and everything we have in the store, plus the newly released add-ons forever, basically. And I think getting 30% on that, it's a really good deal. So you might be, if you're especially if you're using Blender and working as a 3D visualization guy, I think that might be a good option for you. Yeah. So the code should be displayed somewhere, right, during the stream.
Yeah. So I think Yvonne has already shown it, but maybe let me know, guys, if you can see the codes. And if not, so Yvonne should be posting them now. Maybe they're not updating from our end. So for everyone on Facebook, let us know if you've got the codes. If not, we can just paste them in the comments, maybe. Okay, so in any case, just watch out for them. They'll probably show up on the screen, or probably already are showing up on the screen. But in the meantime, let's have a look at. So enjoy those. Enjoy the coupons, yeah. And thanks again for coming. And maybe before we wrap up, let's have a look at a few of the last few questions. So
yeah, I'm just trying to set up the light. Sorry for that.
Because no worries.
Switching off all the time.
You're not driving, are you? Or
No, I'm not driving.
okay. Because I think Derek mentioned it also in the comments. We were kind of worried because like we don't want you to get into trouble or something.
The cars are passing by, so that might be the effect.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So okay. So before going back to the questions one more time, so that's you've heard about the Lex coupon. And for us, just to be clear, yeah, we'll also be giving out a coupon code that will last for a week after the time of the stream, and you can use it on the farm for $100 worth of rendering credit, and that's a lot, believe me. Like that's a lot of if you've got some stills that you want to render, if you've got like a short animation, $100 is going to get you pretty far. So enjoy that. And having said that, let's go back to the questions. Somebody asked, I've been trying to import an old cinema scene to a current 3D software without any luck.
Honestly, I'm not a cinema guy, so I really can't help.
Yeah, I guess if you could manage to import it as into a DAE or an OBJ or an FBX or any of those formats, and then just try to import it from there, then retexture everything. There's always that can be your last resort, I guess. Marcin says, I think speaking into the Blender on render farms, yeah, like he says the Blender command line is the least problematic compared to other software, which I agree with, yeah. But yeah, like an actual back burner counterpart would still be really cool. Yeah, Yaroslav says, for me the cloth sim is kind of a weak spot, but then yeah, they've improved it for 2.8. I saw the bed on Chocofur. Did you use Marvelous Designer for the coverings, or did you just sculpt?
Yeah, we used Marvelous on some of them, or I think on most of them, to be honest. And yeah, it's mostly as I said before, right? Like Blender, in my opinion, is it's very good at general use 3D software. I'm not super experienced in Blender Sculpt, let's say, but everyone knows that the ultimate tool of choice for sculpting is ZBrush, right? So I guess Marvelous is a ZBrush of clothing, you could say that. But
yeah,
again, I'm just trying to recall one of the projects we did literally 2 months ago for one company here in Munich. They were releasing the pillows. So instead of photoshooting them, we created renderings, and the models we had, they had to be really photorealistic. So instead of using Marvelous Designer, we 3D sculpted them. So
wow.
I think it really depends on the project, right? Because the sculpting really, especially if someone has a skill in doing this, can give you the level of realism that's really also hard to achieve with Marvelous. Because it's like in physical world, when you just throw a pillow,
yeah,
it will look realistically lying on the floor or by the wall, but it doesn't necessarily means you can have a nice picture of this pillow with all those physically correct bends and everything. But once you place it by hand and adjust the wrinkles a little bit yourself, then you have the full control and you can have much more interesting photograph in the end.
Yeah,
and I think that's the relative to sculpting it yourself in 3D.
Yeah, I agree. But then I think that also means that you need to. I guess that's also kind of the implication there is that you also, apart from developing your technical knowledge, obviously you'd have to develop your eye. Like you'd have to be able to understand how how the creases are behaving, for example, and how you articulate that by hand with a Wacom or a mouse if you're insane. Yeah.
But in general, I also agree that the cloth sim tools could have some improvement, right? Same
Yeah.
with the fluids, I think.
Yeah. And yeah, like for 2.8 they are actually, so
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, I guess it's no need to say that everybody here is probably super excited
Yes.
for the beta. Yeah. And okay, so Marcin says everything nodes is the most desired feature for me, and it's on the horizon. Yep, yep. Really stoked for
Yeah,
that.
I agree on that. I mean,
Yeah.
if we could have like procedural modeling saved in nodes, let's say in Blender,
Yeah.
that's a really, I mean, you can't argue at that point that Blender is just a hobbyist tool. Let's be honest. I mean, right
Mm-hmm.
now you can't, but still some people try.
Would say that,
Um,
yeah.
but really
But I
having
don't.
all those features is, to me, it's still like really mind-blowing what you can, like the times we live in. You basically download a 50 megabyte zip file with Blender, unzip it,
Mm-hmm.
and you really can do a production level animations or visualizations
Yeah.
that were only available to the best companies, let's say 10-15 years ago, and you can just do it without any limitations right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing. Okay, so I think that that should cover it, and I think we might have also kept you for too long. So yeah, again, everyone, thanks for coming, and
Yeah, my pleasure.
yeah, and
It
I really
was
thank you.
great.
Really, like, I mean, we really appreciate that you went through the trouble to get in your car, and so thanks a lot. Thank you
I'm
so
actually
much.
surprised how well this works. I'm on the mobile internet and it's just a 3G, not even
Yeah,
the high speed one,
yeah,
and it's really really
super seamless.
working.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that's awesome. Um, okay, so I think it's about time we wrapped up. So
Yes.
thanks again, guys. And I'm not so that the our like the prompt the text overlays that are showing up here aren't really updating on our end. So we'll make sure you get the coupon codes. And apart from the codes, there's one more thing we want to announce. Actually, a couple, yeah. So we just like literally a few hours before the stream implemented support for Blender 2.8 on our farm, which means that our plugins can now prepare Blender 2.8 scenes. Obviously, if you're using a different build, we would have to implement that build into our infrastructure. But still, you can prepare scenes with our plugin using 2.8 now. Uh, so that's one. But the main announcement is um, we've really been trying to find ways to kind of help the Blender community grow bigger. So uh, like for example, the way Chocofur is able to provide assets in a very accessible way to Blender users. Um, and save time in production and kind of cut down a pipeline in architecture interior renderings. Um, we wanna be able to help out too. So we're a render farm, and we can help you render. And so we've come up with this idea where if you've got a big project, if it's it could be like an independent like animated film, like an animated short, or well, anything really. You're thinking about putting up a small studio yourself, and you'd like to have some rendering power on your side. You can visit our newest landing page. It's called Blender Big Shots, and you can submit. Yeah, you can apply through our form. Um, and if we're on board with your idea, we can help you out by sponsoring you by way of like giving you credits to help you render your project. So it'd be about
That really sounds nice, I must say.
oh well, yeah. Well, we're trying to we're just trying to kind of we want to like we honestly really want to see the Blender community like become like we don't want Blender to be thought of as a hobbyist's tool.
Mm-hmm.
It really shouldn't be. You know, it's not. There is so much. There is so much more that it should be recognized for. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, Lech, for joining us.
Thanks, and sorry for the technical stuff.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I mean, it's like you said, it's nobody's fault, and it just happens. It's one of those things. It's one of those days.
And very nice experience again.
Same here. So, and to you guys, thanks for joining.
Yes,
and we'll, yeah. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you soon. So that's it for now. Ciao on behalf of Garage Farm and
Chocofur.com.
Yeah. Okay. Peace out, you guys.